So I recently played the DLC of Fire Emblem 3 Houses, which also got me to finish my Blue Lions run of the game, which I hadn't finished yet. But when I finished the run, I had a strange idea. Up until then, I had been making many teams with varied skill sets and abilities, so I thought, what if I made a team that is the same class, or type of class? So I decided that the funniest looking and good test of this idea would be a Pegasus class run. The rules of this would be I could only use Pegasus type classes, mainly the Pegasus Knight, the Falcon Knight, and the Darkflyer, which while doesn't, it's a Pegasus, okay. So I booted up a new game, set to casual mode, and started. I named my character Umdaba, because if you rearrange it, you'll find it's just really dumb. A dumb name for a dumb run? Well, that seemed like the best choice. I ended up choosing Golden Deer because I'm dumb and wouldn't realize my mistake until I got a fourth the way through. So I began training my people and attempting to find the best possible way to make this work. It wasn't long until I could recruit people. This added a fun element of figuring out who to recruit. I had to decide who would be good additions to the team. I knew Ingrid would be important as she is typically a Pegasus kind of character, and that I could get the DLC characters easy is also something that came to my mind. So I went with that. Eventually I had Lysithea, Leonie, Happy, and Hilda all riding Pegasi. When I hit this point, it was a very fast-paced run. I was able to have them zoom up to the front lines, clearing the way for the students who had to use their feet, noobs, and yeah, I was able to finish some of the harder and longer battles in 5 turns. This was really entertaining and got the enemies to be confused.
Not bad for your kind. A bunch of
Pegasus. Then when I went to class change some of the male characters, I realized my one huge big mistake. Male characters can't be Pegasus classes. So then I decided to do flying classes as a whole. This gave me a varied take on the idea. One thing I realized is that Leonie is very overpowered as a Pegasus Knight. I also learned that to make this so that they would have a chance in battle in higher up modes, you really have to learn gardening. It turns out that if you spend time in the garden in the game, picking flowers and pruning them, they will really actually give you stat boosters depending on which flowers you pick. This way you could create whatever build you want for each Pegasus, or make each one fairly all around. Something that Pegasi don't have a lot of, however, is defense, and you can't really create a defense stat boost from gardening, because you have to get ambrosias, and those are typically found on the battlefield. So that is one huge challenge that you'll have to face if you choose to do this in higher difficulty settings. A day later in the run, I decided that it wouldn't truly be a test of beating the game with a single class unless we actually made a single class run. So I booted up a new Game Plus run, this time being female Byleth called Yumbadur, because this would be a much dumber run than the last attempt, as well as making my house the Black Eagles. This let me have a female head of the house and female Byleth. This meant I could really have 2 characters that are required for both missions, Byleth and your house head, both be Pegasi. I chose New Game Plus because it would allow me to speedrun part 1 and set up my team easier. It took a long time, but I ended up recruiting Ingrid, Leonie, Marianne, Constance, and Happy. They did well in the last attempt, so I figured they would be a good addition. However, Marianne didn't see much use in part 2. And as it turns out, Bernadetta is also a great Pegasus, and has some insane lance skills and prowess. I would definitely recommend using her as a lance or a bow knight if you get the chance to, or are interested in trying that. There will be a lot of spoilers plot-wise here, so go play the game and then come back if you don't want spoilers. So I initially attempted to do an Edelgard run, because I knew what happened in that run, and was going to do the church run in a different playthrough on hard mode, as I figured I should enjoy this one path, as I typically playing normally, but that, yeah. However, I accidentally went into that church route. Somehow, I was skipping the cutscenes earlier because I had assumed it wouldn't let me skip the choice of whether to side with the church or Edelgard. But guess what didn't happen? That.
Even though our swords may cross as they do now. There's no denying that our chosen paths never will.
Anyways, we progressed nicely, and it turns out the run is super fun and entertaining. In the second half, I ended up using Shamir and Catherine a lot, as they were a good team. What I found out is that Pegasi can use swords, lances, and bows. On top of this, the DLC added a new Pegasi class called the Dark Flyer, who can actually use magic, which is a huge bonus. And while it's technically not a Pegasus, they look exactly the same, so they count. Exactly. So, one of the things and strategies I found actually very helpful to make it speedier and more progressive and get a bunch of even leveling, is to have like 3 teams of Pegasi if we had to like split off or anything. Typically I would try to set it up so I would split off and have all of these characters here. So typically there would be one on the left side of the field, one on the right side of the field, and one squad in the middle of the field. Each squad would have one close range person using a sword or a lance, one range attacker with a bow, and one magic person. This way they could have the close range attacker draw someone in, and the long range and magic people finishing them off. This made the progress of each battle a lot faster and more intuitive. It also meant that each team would have their own personal healer. A lot of the time, however, you will have one extra person available for use each battle. So I would typically have Iamber, Leone, and some magic person, typically Happy, and some random person depending on how I set up the other teams, in the middle. I found my favorite setups would be Catherine in close combat, Shamir in long range, and Flayn as magic/healer on one of the left or right squads, and another good one that I really liked was Bernadetta as a ranged person, with Lysithea as a magic user, and Petra with a close-up attacker. What was important about the middle group, though, is that they're in a position close enough to get to the left or right side of the team is fast enough to help them out if they need more people. Typically Leone would have to go alone to help, because she had the most movement out of the whole group. She also had the movement ring on, increasing the distance she could travel, which made it so that on some maps, she could practically go anywhere on the map. It was insane. Eventually, we ended up beating Edelgard, saving Rhea, and eventually killing Rhea because of the weird ending to the story. I have no clue what... I don't know why. It felt rushed. Anyways, a side mission for me on this run was to get as many gay endings as possible because my team was like all females, which ended to Catherine and Shamir having an ending, and I ended up marrying Dorothea, which was the only 2 endings I managed to get. Sad, but all good. All in all, I think this is a fun, interesting, and engaging strategy that is definitely worth a try. I think I got lucky with my choice of class. It turned out to be effective and fun to watch. I think this is definitely doable on hard mode and maybe even maddening mode if you're smart enough. I think it would also be fun to try with other classes, and I'd be interested to see what a team of only healers look like. So let me know if you'd be interested to see that, and I'll definitely give it a try on probably a harder mode. I'll see you later. This is Nomquag, logging off.